Hirokazu Kore-eda is a renowned director from Japan, where every film he makes seems to be a masterpiece after masterpiece. The one that sticks with me the most is Like Father, Like Son, but Monster carries so much weight to it that even though it has been years since I have first seen it, it still doesn't leave me. The films are expertly crafted and carry their messages and themes in a direct, calculated way, but it is never forced. His movies don't flow against life, they flow with it. Today, I want to take a deeper look at his 2008 film, Still Walking. This movie is a very interesting rumination on grief, told in an indirect way, and this isn't my opinion. The director said the movie was partially inspired by the death of his mother, as he tried to collect the pieces of his new life. The movie follows the story mostly from the perspective of Ryota, a man entering into his middle-aged life who has married a woman named Yukari, who herself has had a son, so he has taken on the mantle of father to this boy, Atsushi. What I mean by indirect is that the majority of this movie takes place while Ryota's parents are still alive. It's an examination of grief not in the way it shows the life after the loss, but the relationship they had before. Even further, this movie takes place over the course of one day, into the night, and the morning after. On the surface, this doesn't seem like enough time to really come to understand the characters in the film, but the short time frame allows for us to stick with the characters in a way where we never feel separate from them. We have to endure every agonizing family interaction Ryota has as if we were there ourselves, unable to leave like him. Stepping back, what is the core of this movie? I believe the main theme concerns isolation, and how we as humans cope with it in different ways. Ryota, who for the most part goes along with it, his adopted son, Atsushi, who neglects his feelings of isolation, seeing the practice of writing letters that no one will read as a useless act. Toshiko, Ryota's mother, resorts to hate to fill the hole in her heart, while her husband Kyohei battles off isolation with obsession. I'm simply using the word isolation here, but there is more to be said about each character listed, so I will expand on this point. Ryota actively doesn't want to be around his parents. To him, the once-a-year excursion to pay respects to his deceased elder brother Junpei is enough. He even decides not to visit during New Year's. Ryota feels isolated from his parents because they actively push him away. It isn't always conscious, but one can easily see his parents favor Junpei over him. They even go so far as to misremember positive events by attributing them to Junpei rather than to Ryota, further increasing his disdain towards them. So he chooses the passive life of isolating himself from them, rather than committing himself to correcting the situation. It's easier to do nothing. Only occasionally does his anger ever bubble over, but it is mostly ignored, and he goes back to normal, not wanting to make the situation any more uncomfortable than it already is. Even if breaking the act could bring change, he doesn't risk it. Why bring up his grievances if it is unlikely anyone will act upon them? Atsushi and Toshiko are actually quite alike in certain ways, despite how distant these two characters end up being. Atsushi is very young. Isolation at that age is real, but the connection a child has to their initial guardians, generally their parents, is as strong as it ever will be. Yet Atsushi lost his father. Toshiko, on the other hand, is a parent, and she was on the other end of that relationship when Junpei died. A child naturally grows distant from their parents, but a parent generally does not forget. Further, since Junpei was her favorite child, the one she put her future on, she feels isolated every day. What Toshiko lacks is that she can't let anyone be close to her like Junpei. When this is added on top of her already conservative views, she is hostile towards Atsushi, not in an angry or violent way, but he simply doesn't exist in her view of family, because he isn't a blood relative. She's nice, but the bare minimum won't make anyone closer to each other. Instead, she focuses her attention on hating the boy that Junpei drowned while saving. It's so blatantly obvious, so easy to see, it doesn't have to be said that the last thing Junpei would want for people is to blame the kid he saved for his death. And the movie doesn't say it, it just floats out there above their heads. Toshiko probably knows it herself, but it doesn't matter to her. Junpei was more important to her than anyone else. It isn't a contradiction for her. Then there's Kyohei. He comes off as someone who is one of the sharpest knives in his days. but has now gone dull. He is almost lovable due to all of his old person quirks. The way he just wanders in and out of conversations, his commitment to remaining the image of strength despite his ailing body, his awkward attempts at conversation knowing he is way out of the loop due to years of disconnection from his family. Yet his character is deeply sad. He carries the same hate as his wife, but unlike his wife, who is usually still cheerful, Kyohei carries this sense of loss everywhere he goes. Not only the loss of his son, but the loss of his legacy. Kyohei is frustrated at his son's death, but in all he mostly comes off as just sad. As he reaches old age, he is increasingly more isolated. That is just the way of it. The older you get, the more people you lose, the less the world values what you can give. He has gotten to the point where he can no longer continue his profession as a doctor, a job he picked up since his own father had fallen ill when he was young. When Atsushi asked him if he saved his father, Kyohei responds that it was too late for that by the time he finished his training, and when Junpei died, he was not there either. Unlike his wife, Kyohei still sees an opportunity for the future. He actively takes on the role as grandpa to Atsushi, hoping that this boy offers a new opportunity to his legacy as a doctor. But these ideas did not pay off in the end. The ending of the movie takes place a few years later, after Ryota's parents have passed away. Atsushi is obviously not a doctor at this point, and Ryota reveals that they never did attend that soccer game with Kyohei together. It is quite sad, though the movie does offer one last thing. There's a scene earlier in the film when Atsushi is talking to his mother Yukari about his relationship with Ryota. She tells him that Ryota will become a part of him, slowly and over time. Atsushi goes outside and begins talking to his late father, telling him about his feelings and his desires, a letter that no one will read. So why do that? Why do we write and speak knowing that there's almost certainly no one listening back? In the end, we know for sure that we have ourselves, and with that certainty we have to talk to ourselves. We know ourselves best, and we possess the possibility to approach ourselves the best. These letters aren't necessarily to solve our problems, it's just to put it out there, to place our feelings in a place where we can more easily see them, to better grapple with our lives. So we may only have ourselves, until you consider butterflies. While Ryota is escorting his mother away from Junpei's grave, she catches sight of a yellow butterfly, and tells him that when a white butterfly survives the winter, it comes back as yellow. Ryota doesn't buy this, and asks where she heard it from, and she says she doesn't know. At the end of the movie, when Ryota is escorting his daughter from his mother's grave, he catches sight of a yellow butterfly and tells her the same story. She asks where he heard that, and he says he doesn't remember. What this shows is that the connections we have to each other is not always immediately obvious. It may not even seem like it at times, but as much as we are trapped within our own minds, so much of us is given to us by others. We are containers of all the love, experiences, hate, and stories we have attained in our lifetimes. We don't even recognize that all the time. And that's what I think this movie is about at the end of the day. Just all those quiet interactions, those moments that make us, all those unsaid things. It all comes together in the end, somehow.